Hey, what up, Math 8? This is Mr. Bainey, and we're going to be doing this worksheet where we will write a linear equation when we start with 2 points. We're not only going to write the linear equation, but we're also going to look at the graph of it as well. And so writing the equation is going to involve us finding the slope and y-intercept, and so that's why you see all these different columns here. It's going to seem like a very lengthy process, but that's why we're practicing it, so that you can get a little bit faster. So this is a double-sided front and back. You got 1 through 4 on this side, and then you got 5 through 8 on the other side. So let's get to it. Number 1, we have these 2 points. We've got -3, 6, and we've got 1, -2. Now, if I wanted to, I could go directly to the graph, and I can actually graph it if I wanted to. Or I can get my equation, and I can do that as well. So any way that we want to do it, I'm going to kind of go in order of each of these columns. And so, I'm just going to show it to you this way, but whatever you prefer. So I'm gonna use a method here that I normally don't use in class, but if I have the points -3, 6, that means x is -3 and y is 6. Then my second point is 1, -2, so x is 1, y is -2. So I'm going to use slope formula. I want to know what's my change in, sorry, I got to do change in y first. So my slope is going to be my change in y. Sorry, that's this right here, change in y. How do you get from 6 to -2? In order to do that, you subtract, going backwards, -2 minus 6. And then I want to know, how do I get from -3 to 1? So I go 1 minus a -3. Okay, -2 minus 6 is -8. 1 minus -3 is +4. And so that gives me a slope of -2. Okay, so again, that's using slope formula. Y-intercept. Now this one's a little bit tricky. We're going to be using the slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. We're going to be using this. So in order to use this to find out my y-intercept is b, by the way. I want to find out what's b. I could, to find out b, I could like change the y and change the m and change the x to a number that I know already. I know what m is. Yeah, I just found it. It's right here. M is -2. Now x and y, so here's x, here's y, is actually going to be a point. So I want to know, am I going to use the first point here, -3, 6, or 1, -2? And so my preference is that I would use the smaller one, smaller numbers, just because they're easier to deal with. Sometimes you want to also try to avoid the negatives because you could easily make mistakes with those. But that's not going to help us, regardless of which point we choose. They both have negative numbers. So here's what I'm going to do. M is -2. With this point right here, x is 1 and y is -2. So I'm just going to replace these. So here, y is, instead of y equals mx plus b, it's going to be -2 equals -2 again, times 1 plus b. So then -2 times 1, there in the middle, is -2. Then I'm going to pretty much ask is, or what is, if I do -2 plus something, what do I have to add so that it's equal to -2? And the answer is 0, because I would add 2 to both sides here. I would add 2 to find out what it is I am adding with that b, and I end up with b equals 0. Okay. So again, the equation y equals mx plus b. I'm filling in these blanks in order to write my equation. So y equals m, which is -2, x plus 0. We don't have to really put that plus 0, so y equals negative 2x is plenty. Okay, next is the type of line. Now, it might be helpful to graph this first. Let's go ahead and do that. I know that the y-intercept is 0, so it's going to be here at 0. The slope of this one is negative 2. That means slope is negative 2 over 1. And so I'm going to go down 2 and right 1. And there's my other point. If I go down 2 and right 1 again, I could also go up 2 and left 1. And I would get these points right here. So here is my line. We want to think about is this diagonal, horizontal, or vertical? So it is definitely a diagonal line. And then is this decreasing or increasing? If it's diagonal, it's going to be one of those. If it's horizontal or vertical, it's not decreasing or increasing. So from left to right, this is going downhill. So we call this a decreasing function. Okay, I'm going to get you started on the next one just because it is a special type of line. So here we go. My XY table starts off with negative 1 comma 4 is my first point. So x is negative 1, y is 4. My second point is negative 1 comma negative 5. So I want to figure out my change in y divided by change in x. The y is on the bottom. So I'm doing, going from 4 to negative 5 means I take negative 5 minus 4. Okay, subtract. And then to figure out how much I go from negative 1 to negative 1, I already know that. It doesn't move at all, right? So from negative 1 to negative 1, it's no change. So the change is actually 0. And then on top is not really going to matter. So I'm just going to do it anyway. It's negative 9. So our slope here, if you were to try to put this into your calculator, if you put negative 9 divided by 0, you're going to get an error. But don't write down error as your answer. The slope is actually undefined. So we say that because we can't define what the slope is in that case. So now if we can't define a slope, that kind of makes our writing the equation a little bit more complicated. I'm going to just go ahead and go to graphing. So negative 1 comma 4 and negative 1 comma negative 5. So let's graph that. Negative 1, negative 4 is right there. Zoom in a little bit. And then negative 1, 1, and then negative 5. 2, 4, 5. So this is, this is a vertical line. There we go. This vertical line, does it go through the origin? That's my first, or not the origin, I'm sorry. Is it going to go through the y-axis? And the answer to that is no, it's parallel to it, right? It's never actually going to touch it, cross it, or intersect it, or anything. So if it's asking for y-intercept, like when is it going to cross the y-axis? It doesn't. There's actually no y-intercept. Okay. Now the equation, we don't, the equation, there's a number of ways to think about this. So how about this? I know that this equation, it's a special type of line. So take a look at what is the same. What stayed the same? Did the x stay the same or did the y stay the same? So that's going to help us write our equation. So the y stayed the same, and that means my equation, the x stayed the same. So I'm going to start off with x. If x stayed the same, that means it'll always be the same. It's going to be negative 1. And that's our equation. Okay, sometimes the y is the same exact number. In that case, I'm going to put y equals that number. Okay, so this is a vertical line. So let's write vertical. And it is neither decreasing nor increasing, so I'm going to put NA. Okay. And that's all I'm going to show you here for this one. I will have some more solutions ready for you next time. This is great practice because you're doing sort of these same skills when you are figuring out the equations on the mapping project for our MYP unit. So try the rest of these out, and check in with me for the solutions at some other point. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Thank you.